While at school, I found a room in the hills overlooking town. It was in a mansion where 4 rooms that had been intended for servants were then rented to students. The owner was a doctor who was then living alone and wanted someone to always be in the house. I was pleasantly distracted from my heartbreak over Anne when 2 new roomers moved in. Stanley Shin was a Chinese American, and Richard Takamoto, whose parents were from Japan. Stanley was a particularly fun character and helped me take my mind off my social ineptness. He enjoyed such things as conducting mock interviews with his tape recorder. He would be the interviewer and he would be some celebrity selected at random. One evening I heard Stanley outside my room talking on the phone in Chinese. Instead of Stanley's usual upbeat, positive chatter, this talk sounded emotional and helpless. Stanley came in my room and told me he had been told by his family that he should accept a marriage arrangement with a granddaughter of Chairman Mao Zedong. We discussed ways the marriage could have a political advantage for the Mao family. Having relatives stateside could act as an insurance policy in case the regime got in trouble. Stanley had no desire to abide by his family's suggestion and was deeply troubled. I tried to minimize the situation. He then turned to me and asked if I would consider taking on such a marriage arrangement. At first, I thought he was kidding. But soon I saw he was very serious. Stanley refused to drop the subject and turned on all of his salesman skills. Stanley's fast talking must have put me in a daze. I hesitantly agreed. I was thinking it was highly unlikely that such an arrangement would ever need to be honored. The idea did intrigue me, and I wondered what it would be like to be the fiancé of some politically important family from overseas. Early the next year, 1962, Stanley and Richard invited me to dinner for Chinese New Year. I learned how to say Happy New Year in Chinese, Gong Hei Fat Choi. Occasionally, Stanley updated me on how the marriage arrangement was going and asked me for some information about my life and myself. I surrendered a picture of myself and a story, the one about me psychically knowing of Anne and her lover. He asked, you have to tell me some reason it would be good for her to come to the United States, something special. I thought for a moment and said, how about my electric blanket? He thought that was great and was very pleased with the answer. I was never sure if this was a joke or not. One evening, a few days after his graduation, Stanley came into my room. He had given me a blue light bulb for one of the lamps in my room, and we had gotten in the habit of always turning that lamp on whenever we had our talks. He needed to say goodbye and asked if I was having any second thoughts about the marriage arrangement. He again agreed with my earlier assessment that the marriage would probably not take place. I told Stanley, don't call me, I'll call you. After he left, I did occasionally find myself thinking that it did make for a fun and secret daydream.